On September 19th, a threshold is crossed, and you are either on one side of it or the other. There will be no extension, no second chance, no rain check. The universe does not offer infinite windows for the same opportunity, and this one is sealed in time. That might feel intense, but consider this. Your most significant moment of transformation could finally be arriving, justifying all the waiting you have endured. The silent frustrations, the near misses, the slow, agonizing patience. It was all leading to this. And when the calendar flips past that date, that specific pathway closes. Right now, as you process these words, you are still in the critical window. Every long, stagnant period in your life, every season where it felt like you were frozen in place, is connected to this moment. You may not see the full picture yet, but the scattered pieces of your journey have been quietly aligning themselves. September 19th is not an arbitrary date. It is a convergence point where all that accumulated effort, all that unseen progress, consolidates into something real and undeniable, if you are prepared for it. The journey can feel impossibly long, can't it? You invest your energy day after day. You remain diligent, and yet the landscape of your life seems unchanged. It's like being a deep-sea diver, kicking hard, checking your gauges, but suspended in a vast, dark blue with no sense of upward movement. A quiet fear begins to surface, that all this effort is just displacing water, that your oxygen and energy are finite and will vanish into the abyss. And yet, a deeper instinct competes with that fear. The one that insists the surface is closer than it feels. That internal war between despair and faith is profoundly taxing, but it's also one of the surest signs that you are in a phase of profound pressure buildup. Think of how a deep-sea volcano forms. For centuries, nothing is visible on the surface. The ocean looks the same as it always has, but miles below, on the seafloor, immense pressure is building. Magma accumulates, pushing against the crust, layer by layer, in total darkness. This process is silent, invisible, and can go on for generations. But anyone who studies geology knows that this stillness is not inactivity. It is a period of immense energy consolidation, a gathering of force until the precise moment the pressure becomes too great and a new island bursts forth from the sea. Your life operates under the same geological principle. The moments of perceived stagnation are often when the most critical internal work is being done, preparing for an eruption of change. The annals of human achievement confirm this pattern. Consider Marie Curie. She and her husband worked for years in a drafty, leaking shed, which she described as a miserable old hovel. They were attempting to isolate radium from tons of raw pitch-blende ore, a physically grueling and dangerous task. For over 4 years, they toiled, stirring boiling vats of the material with heavy iron rods, suffering from burns and exhaustion, with almost nothing to show for it. Each failed attempt, each inconclusive result, was not evidence that their goal was impossible. It was a painstaking process of elimination. The pressure mounted with every passing month. But that very exhaustion, that relentless effort, was the signal that they were closing in on the truth. Without that long, arduous process in the dark, there would have been no Nobel Prize, no revolution in physics and medicine. You can imagine her in those moments, hands raw, facing another failed crystallization and confronting that defining question: do I stop or do I continue stirring? The fact that she kept going, driven by a deep conviction, made all the difference. Elite athletes understand this season of invisible progress intimately. A mountaineer preparing for a solo ascent of an unclimbed peak might spend years in obscurity, training their body to withstand extreme cold and low oxygen. They could spend entire expeditions failing, forced to turn back by storms or exhaustion, questioning if their ambition is even achievable. Then, one perfect weather window opens, and suddenly, those years of silent preparation converge into a single, life-defining push to the summit. Those years of failure weren't wasted. They were the necessary acclimatization, building a resilience in body and mind that could not be acquired any other way. If you ask them afterward, most will say it wasn't the moment on the summit that defined them. It was the grueling, invisible buildup that forged their character. And that is a vital distinction. Struggle does not mean you have lost your way. It means something profound is developing internally, like a caterpillar in a chrysalis, long before it shows any sign of becoming a butterfly. What feels like a dead end is often the momentum building in the dark, preparing for the moment when everything breaks open. This applies not just to pioneering scientists or elite athletes, but to anyone navigating a personal transformation. Those long, frustrating plateaus are not wasted time. They are the periods where your foundation is being solidified, preparing for a sudden emergence that was, in reality, building all along. The greatest challenge is to trust that what appears as a lack of progress is actually hidden, essential preparation. Waiting can feel empty, but it is not. Just as a volcano doesn't build without purpose, and training doesn't occur without effect, your periods of stillness are charged with potential. They are creating the strength that will be required later. Eventually, the volcano erupts, the chrysalis breaks, the summit is reached. The culmination may take time, but the pressure itself is a critical part of the creation. Subtle shifts in your reality begin to appear when the timing is near, but most people miss them until the change is too obvious to ignore. How do you recognize that a turning point is imminent if there's no grand announcement? That's the challenge. Life rarely sends a formal invitation. More often, the change begins with whispers. You might notice your internal state feels different, or small, external events happen in ways you didn't anticipate. These moments are so easy to dismiss that most people write them off as coincidence. But in truth, they are often the first tremors indicating a seismic shift is approaching, like feeling a faint vibration in the ground long before you hear the approaching train. Small, barely perceptible signals that carry the message that something much larger is on its way. The strange thing is that these indicators often surface when you feel most stuck. Imagine an artist in a creative block, feeling their inspiration has dried up. Then, out of nowhere, an old friend calls to praise a piece of their work from years ago. Or they stumble upon a new color or texture that sparks a tiny flicker of an idea. At first glance, it may not feel like a breakthrough, but you must pay closer attention. It is an early sign that their creative well is not dry, but is beginning to refill. That small nudge is a signal that the inspiration, the project, or the recognition they've been waiting for is much closer than they believed. The compliment is not just a kind word, it is a sign that the energy has begun to move. History is filled with examples of this quiet prelude. Many great leaders spend years in dissent, their voices unheard. But every now and then, a small piece of their message begins to resonate. Imagine a young activist exhausted from campaigning for a cause no one seems to care about. Then they notice a subtle shift, a small but unusual increase in followers, or a single influential person sharing their message. To someone on the verge of giving up, that change might seem insignificant, but in reality, it is the first crack in the dam, proving the pressure is having an effect. By choosing to notice and pour energy into that small opening, the entire movement begins to pivot. That tiny signal becomes the first sign of the widespread change they had been fighting for. Neuroscience actually provides a framework for this. Our brains are pattern recognition machines, constantly scanning for anomalies. Researchers have studied the error-related negativity response in the brain, a signal that fires when we make a mistake or come close to a goal but fall short. Instead of being discouraging, these near-miss moments have been shown to increase focus and heighten awareness. Your attention sharpens. It's during these periods of heightened sensitivity that your mind is primed to detect the smallest signal of opportunity. So, when a subtle opening finally appears, your brain is not only capable of seeing it, it's already prepared to act. The signs can manifest in many forms. Sometimes they are disguised as unexpected invitations or small opportunities. Other times, they are internal, a sudden sense of peace after weeks of anxiety, a moment of profound clarity when just yesterday everything felt confusing. For some, it may be as simple as meeting new people who align perfectly with where they are heading. These cues often feel too minor to be significant, but in truth, they are whispers confirming that the change is already in motion. And here's why this is critical. You cannot force these signals, but you can train yourself to notice them. The breakthrough does not arrive with a marching band. It arrives with whispers. The softest shift in your environment, a small flicker of hope, the tiniest pattern pointing toward a new direction. If you are paying attention, you will sense that these are not isolated events. They are signals calling you to prepare, to get into position, to focus your intent. Most people miss these signs because their frustration is peaking at the exact same time. The very moment the shift is closest is often when their discouragement is at its loudest. That is the great paradox. You can be a whisper away from the turning point, but because the signs are quiet and small, it is easier to assume nothing is happening. Yet those who learn to lean in and listen to the whispers, they are the ones who are ready to walk through the door when it finally materializes. Why is it that the most intense resistance seems to materialize right before things are about to change? It almost feels like a cosmic joke. You spend months, maybe years, investing effort, and instead of seeing a reward, the obstacles multiply. Setbacks appear back to back. You start to wonder if you are pushing against an immovable wall. It's as if life saves its most difficult challenges for the moments when you are already running on empty. And yet that razor's edge, the place where you believe you cannot possibly go on, is often the exact prelude to the release. Think of a bowstring being drawn back by an archer. As the arrow is pulled further, the tension in the bow increases exponentially. Nothing is happening on the surface. The arrow hasn't moved forward an inch, but internally, an incredible amount of potential energy is being stored. The point of maximum resistance, where the wood of the bow groans and the string feels like it will snap, is the moment right before the arrow is launched with maximum power. The heaviest resistance comes right before the release, because a massive transfer of energy is about to take place. Life mirrors this principle of physics. The weight doesn't increase as a punishment. It increases because you are closest to your launch point, which is why things feel most unbearable just before the end. It often resembles the final stage of a caterpillar's transformation. Inside the chrysalis, it has dissolved into a kind of living soup, its old form completely gone. The final act is to break free. This struggle is not a flaw in the process. It is essential. The effort of breaking the chrysalis forces fluid into the butterfly's wings, giving them the strength they need to fly. Without that final, desperate struggle, the wings would be useless. The breaking point is not an obstacle to its destiny. It is the very mechanism of its creation. Most people give up there, convinced the struggle is a sign of failure. But had they pushed just a little longer, the entire world would have changed. That is the brutal deception of the breaking point. It never announces that it's the final step. It only dares you to push one more time. Admiral Jim Stockdale endured this tension in its most extreme form. As a prisoner of war, he survived for years under conditions of unimaginable hardship and torture. He later formulated what is now known as the Stockdale paradox, the ability to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, while simultaneously retaining an unwavering faith that you will prevail in the end. He didn't rely on blind optimism. He acknowledged the grim reality of his situation every single day, but he never lost faith in the end of the story. He turned the sting of his reality into a source of inner fuel. That unwavering persistence, that blend of brutal honesty and profound faith, is what carried him through years of darkness to his eventual freedom. His ordeal wasn't a prelude to his life's work. It was his life's work. It was the pressure point that he had to endure to become a symbol of human resilience. This principle is not just for heroes in extreme circumstances. It is a fundamental law of growth. In psychology, this grinding process is at the heart of post-traumatic growth, the discovery that deep suffering can lead to profound positive change. Research shows that it's not about talent or luck. It's about persistence, the ability to keep moving through the very moments that feel designed to break you. And here is the most crucial part. Those emotional low points, the days you doubt everything, are often the very days you are closest to your transformation. It's not a coincidence. That pressure is forcing a kind of resilience, a spiritual strength you could not build any other way. In other words, the weight you feel is never wasted. It is a crucible, ensuring you are strong enough for the responsibility that comes with the breakthrough when the door finally opens. So, when you notice that everything feels its hardest, that resistance is at its peak right when you feel you have nothing left to give, remind yourself that this intensity is a signal of proximity. The point of maximum tension means the release is imminent. And that is why September 19th is not just another day. It is that exact threshold looking you directly in the face. What if there was one day that marked the point where everything you've been working toward finally converges? That is what September 19th represents. Not a random mark on a calendar, but the precise moment where all the hidden efforts, the long waiting, the subtle signals, and even the intense pressure collide into something tangible. All your work does not dissipate into nothing. It concentrates right here. The thing about this moment is that it will not wait. After September 19th, the door does not remain open. It closes, not in a symbolic sense, but in a real, practical way that means this specific configuration of energy and opportunity will never be offered again in the same form. Life does this. It presents a single, precise window, and then it moves on. You don't get to come back later when it's more convenient. The unique alignment surrounding this date will not be repeated. Think of it like a solar eclipse. For a few brief, specific moments, the moon perfectly aligns with the sun, creating a breathtaking, rare event. Once that moment passes, the alignment is broken. You can stand there and remember it, but you cannot re-enter it. You had to be present and prepared when a window was open. That's how September 19th functions. It is potent only in its own time. There is also the life cycle of the chrysalis to consider. A butterfly must emerge within a specific window. If it doesn't struggle to break free at the right moment, its wings will not develop properly, and it will never fly. The potential was there for months, but the window for emergence is brief. Miss it, and the opportunity for flight is lost. That is the same with your own growth. The potential you have been cultivating does not remain in a perfect state forever. There is a right time to act, and then that time is gone. September 19th is that emergence date for you. You can see this pattern play out on the world stage. An entrepreneur gets one crucial meeting with an investor that changes the fate of their company. A political candidate has one debate that defines their entire campaign. One choice, one moment, and the trajectory of the future is altered. Moments like these are never open-ended. They are sharp, unrepeatable fractures in the ordinary flow of time. There is real psychology behind this. Deadlines focus the mind. They strip away distractions and force your attention into a state of heightened clarity. That's why you find a surge of energy just before a critical deadline. Your brain is wired to treat time-sensitive moments with special priority. September 19th creates that state of sharpened focus. It combines urgency with clarity so that you can finally act in alignment with what you have been preparing for all along. And when you pause and look back at the months leading to this, the long wait, the false starts, the subtle signs, it becomes obvious they were not disconnected events. They were all part of a single, coherent process. The hardship was not random. The waiting was not a delay. Even your weakest moments were not wasted. They were compressing everything toward this single threshold, and now it is here. After the 19th, this chance will not exist in the same way. You can choose to watch it pass, or you can understand what it truly represents. The long wait was pointing to this. The signals were announcing it in whispers. The pressure was proof of its nearness. Now, the opening is real, and you are standing directly in front of it, which means the choice isn't about whether opportunity exists. It's whether you are ready to step forward while the chrysalis is ready to be broken. Every struggle that brought you here was not in vain. Those delays, those setbacks, even the moments that felt like failures, they were shaping the very strength you need for what comes next. Waiting built a resilience you didn't know you were acquiring, and patience became a quiet form of power. Each difficulty was less of a wall and more of a door getting ready to open. If this resonates with you, write the phrase, "I am ready for September 19th" in the comments. Let it be more than just a comment. Let it be a personal declaration, the point from which your transformation begins. After September 19th, this exact opening will not return. But right now, it is here, waiting for your first step.